Welcome to Saints Alive 2022, an evening in Oz. I'm Kevin Cook, Director of Advancement, and we appreciate you joining us. This video is geared for our Central Catholic Saints family and friends who are not able to be with us in person in the room this evening. Right now, the room I'm in is Mr. Jim Tabor's room for the better part of his 40-year career teaching at Central Catholic High School. And tonight it is my pleasure to invite you to take a walk with Mr. Tabor. Let's send it to him.
My name is Jim Tabor. Kids, even in the Rotary, people still call me Mr. Tabor. And it's only in recent days that a few of them began to call me by my first name. So I first started teaching at Central Catholic in 1984. I was 33. That meant a lot to me because I got married when I was 30. So Jesus means a lot to me. So his ministry was from age 30 to 33. So that was there. And then, so I was 33 in 1984 when I started. So I was 38 years at Central Catholic. I came into Central with the idea that I would teach for a couple of years. I'd say, I can do this for a couple of years. I was terrified because I had to teach chemistry, physics, and algebra. And that first year, I just walked outdoors every night. I just trying to learn the chemistry, physics, and algebra, which was very important because it made me a better biology teacher. So I would say the very first thing that made me want to stay longer was I fell in love with the students. The Central Catholic has wonderful students. I might not be the world's greatest teacher, but I have the greatest students. And I realized that age of students, I really love that age of students. I remember one day we were having Mass at Holy Trinity back in the old school. We walked over for Mass. And I was sitting on the left side toward the back, about 2/3 of the way back. And during Mass, and all of a sudden I noticed that everybody at Holy Trinity and at Mass, they all seemed to glow. Everywhere I looked around and their faces, they just seemed, and all of a sudden I thought to myself, this is how God sees them. God has let me see these students the way he sees them. And that he saw the love in them. And it was a very profound experience. So the second thing is I began to fall deeply in love with God. And number three, I was really aware that at that time we had gone from having all nuns for teachers practically. Sister Mary Kramer was the last nun. There was a couple nuns to teach and they left all at once. So I was the first year, it was all lay teachers. Lay teachers need to support families, so they had to have a salary, and it was a very small salary. But this meant tuition had to be large. And so a lot of people were balking at sending their kids because they didn't think they could afford it. And so there was a lot there, and I realized that Central Catholic was in doubt, that it was, in danger of closing. And I was loving the school, the kids, loving God, and all of a sudden I realized they need continuity, and I need to stay. So I got the feeling that I needed to stay for the continuity, and then Father King, who was the first pastor at Epiphany, I went to him, and I says, I can talk about God in my classroom, and my kids are getting ready to go into grade school. Is there any way I can get them into Epiphany so that they can hear about God in the classroom? And he says, I'll take care of it. And I says, okay, how much is this going to cost? I need to know how much so I can try to that. He says, we'll work on it. We'll find a way for you. And so he got our kids into school and he helped us finance the kids in school. So the next thing was, I was poor. We lived our first half of our marriage below the poverty level. But the Catholic community, no one tried to convert us. No one tried to convert us to be Catholic. But the Catholic community, whatever we had need, I'd come out of the school, we had one car, and I'd come out and all of a sudden the back of my seat would be full of groceries, see? And oh my goodness, that was Andy Farrar. Okay, Andy, I told you not to do this, but we come home, wow, look at what we got. This is better than we normal. Carrie could make a dime stretch so far, and we did that. So the Catholic community embraced us. They helped us when they seemed to sense when we were in need and took care of us. So that's basically why I stayed. Well, after a while, I began to study and listen in Mass, and then I began to read. And then one day I was in my living room with my wife, and to this day, we do not know which one brought it up, but one of us asked the other, did you ever think about becoming Catholic? And immediately we were both ecstatic. We had both arrived at that same point at the same time, and we were just thrilled. And then after one day, I went to see Father King, and I says, is there any way I could Carrie and I are thinking about becoming Catholic. And so he says, yes, we'll take care of that. He says, you can go through the CCD, but I want to teach you personally. So he set up private tutoring for us. So we'd come over, and he would meet with us once a week and guide us through until we became Catholic. So Father King meant the world to us. So I really love the Catholic community, the students, the parents, the school board, the faculty. Everybody has helped us. And what we gave out is I gave 38 years. I've loved every moment of it, scared to death most of the time. But yeah, it was the Catholic community that won us over, and I'm very thankful for that. All my life, it's been up here. I am cerebrally entertained. And I look around, I walk through a woods. I walk through the nature preserve, and someone else might be out there running and checking their aerobic exercise. And I look down and I see a spring beauty in the spring, and I says, I know what your chromosomes look like. I've looked at them. I know how many they are. I hear a bird in the background. Oh, that's a rain crow. That's the yellow-billed cuckoo. It's so haunting. And so wherever I go, I hear an insect. I say, oh, that's an angular-winged katydid. I know what it sounds like in Southern Illinois. In Southern Illinois, it sounds like a marble falling on concrete. Here, it sounds like two marbles there. See, I'm able to. So, and then I have also my philosophies in life. So number one, you can put me in a stalled car in the middle of nowhere and I'm entertained. You can lock me in a jail cell and I'm entertained. I can be stuck in an elevator as long as I'm entertained. I'm self-entertaining. So I'm gonna have fun. The big difference I notice is I'm horribly relaxed. There's a lot of pressure. I'd put in 60-hour weeks at Central during the school year and about 20 or 30-hour weeks during the summer, trying to make sure everything's ready for the next school year. And so although I put long hours in this summer, I come in the fall, and then when the first day of school, I'm just turn around in bed. And then when the parents are coming in and they're going to meet the teachers for the first time, I'm sitting in the backyard at a campfire, cooking brats, and I got a beer. So the relaxation, I shall have no problems in retirement that way.
Thank you, Mr. Tabor, for all that you've done over the last nearly 4 decades. We're inviting you to help celebrate Mr. Tabor along with us. Tonight, our fund to need is to put generous dollars from all of you into the James Tabor Fund for Science Education. You can make a gift right now to help support our science department, help foster science education at Central Catholic High School, prepare our students as they grow. Mr. Tabor did an outstanding job over the last nearly 40 years, and this is a way that you can thank him for everything he's done. Now, while you're making that contribution, we're going to transition over to our Alumni Achievement Awards. Let's see our first honoree.
Well, I'm Paul Segoviano, and I graduated from Central Catholic High School in 1951. And it was a great experience, and I certainly would encourage all families to make sure their children get a Catholic education, especially at Trinity High School, now Central Catholic High School. Well, first of all, there's one thing about a Catholic education. You learn discipline and respect. And And I certainly had the privilege of having a lot of nuns in my school days, and I appreciated them. And they were strict, but they were fair and they were honest, and they had a lot of fun on occasion. Probably the most exciting thing that ever happened to me at Central Catholic High School, I met a young lady my sophomore year in homeroom, and believe it or not, we were married for 65 years after that meeting. So that's one of the fondest memories I have at Central, is meeting my wife, Barbara, there. But I also had the opportunity to participate in sports, even had the lead role in the senior class play, So president of the Monogram Club, did a lot of things at Central, but a small school on a strict environment gives you an opportunity to prepare for life, and I certainly appreciated that. And, I'm happy to say we talk about Trinity High School and Central Catholic High School. When people talk about sending your children to a Catholic high school, some of them look at it as, it's really a financial obligation, and it is, but it's worth every penny of it. As of this date, my family and my children and their children and grandchildren, we have 224 years of Catholic education. Very proud of that fact. Well, my father came to this country from Mexico as a young boy, 11-year-old boy, and became self-educated. Nowadays, they call that, being sort of homeschooled. He always said, if you receive, you give. And so it's always been my idea and my ambition to help those in need or those who need some guidance. I was always involved in something, and the kids on the West Side, they were being used as a scrimmage team for a couple organized teams, so I organized what is now the Bloomington Knockers. We started them in 1957, and in fact, Bernie McIlvaney was the chief of police at that time, and Father George Casper was assistant priest at St. Patrick's. And I said, I saw these kids out at O'Neill Park being scrimmaged against by an organized team. And I said to Father Casper, if these kids want to play, let's get them organized. Let's give them a chance. And so he said, well, let me help you raise the money, and we'll see what we can do. So we walked door to door, knocking on doors, asking for donations to start the Knockers, and we did. We started them, and we raised the money, and I said to Father Casper, okay, we've got the money, and we're going to be green and white because of St. Pat's. And I said, you can name the team. He said, okay. So a few days later, I asked Father, I said, did you name the team? And he said, yeah, I did. I said, what are we going to call them? He said, we're going to call them the Knockers. He said, well, at that time, Father Rainey was a longtime athletic director at Trinity High School. Had a mother who lived in Knock, Ireland, and there's a beautiful shrine there. And so she went to that shrine, and she was made to see a miracle in Knock, Ireland. So from Knock, Ireland, without calling the Saints or the Irish, they became the Bloomington Knockers. Started them in 1957 with about 15 kids. And today I'm happy to say I've given that responsibility to my son Mark and my grandson Brian, and we have over 200 kids in the program. And I'm very proud of that fact. Well, being involved in helping kids, John Penn, who's a major labor leader in this country, came to me and he said, there's a crisis in this country of kids dropping out of high school. And he said, we need to do something about that. And he said, you've worked with kids all your life. Give them a chance. He said, do you think we could put together an organization, a program that we could address the high school dropout? And we went down and met him in his office in Springfield, laid it out. So we worked with the educators up and down the state of Illinois putting the program together. To back up a little bit, the name came from Liz and I was sitting in the office and looking for a name for this program. And I said, what are we trying to do? She said, keep kids in school. I said, for how long? 4 years. Stay 4. And that's where it came from. So we set out some simple guidelines for these kids to follow. And if they followed it, and such as a grade point average, community service, extracurricular, get them away from their core group, get them involved with other groups, other organizations. And upon graduation, an enrollment in a trade school, military, community college, we would give them a grant of $1,000 for unexpected expenses. And then we worked with ISAC, Illinois Student Assistance Corps, to find them scholarships, and have been extremely successful. We've had over right around 550 kids in the program since we started, have a graduation rate of 97% of those kids. It's amazing. And my biggest goal is to reach 98. I think the biggest satisfaction of what I have gained and what I appreciate is the fact that someone else has been given a chance in life. Or as one young lady said to us after an interview, I didn't think anybody cared. It's always been my drive to, make sure that our kids were accepted, all kids are accepted, race, color, creed. You've been brought into this world, and I always say when you bring a child in this world, you got to love them, you got to feed them, you got to clothe them, and you got to educate them. When I got the call, I said, there are people much more deserving, because if you look at John Snyder, he is the epitome of love and concern for Central Catholic High School. He's given his life, so to speak, to that school and to the students. And he recalls all of them by name, and I consider him a dear, dear friend. And to receive this honor named after him, I truly, truly appreciate it. But there again, in receiving this honor, I really would accept it on behalf of my wife, who I love and miss, and gave me the opportunity to do things that I do.
Congratulations, Mr. Segoviano, and thank you so much for all of your service to the Central Catholic community, to the Bloomington Normal community, and beyond. We really, really appreciate it, and certainly very deserving of the John Snyder Saintly Service Award. Well done. If you're watching tonight, November 12th, well, we've got a couple of things going on. Number one, we have the silent auction going on, and you can put in bids on items right now. Also, we have the Jack Lewis Jewelers necklace, courtesy of our alum, John Carter, that you can also pay a little money to get some raffle tickets. So make sure that you're entered into that drawing for the necklace from John Carter. Thank you, John. Now, it's time for our next Alumni Association Award. And we now go to Mr. Walkner.
Hi, I'm David Walkner. I'm a longtime born in Bloomington native. Came through St. Mary's Grade School on the west side with the Franciscans for my 8 years, and then on to Holy Trinity High School, and then on to Notre Dame for undergraduate, and University of Illinois Law School for my law degree. I was in the business school majoring in finance, and along the way started thinking about, well, what am I going to do when I finish? And then law school kind of popped in my mind, and I thought, well, that's something that I would like. I looked at it as an opportunity to work with people and help people and their legal needs. So Joan and I have been married 57 years, 58 years. We have 5 children, boys on both ends and 3 girls in the middle. We have 12 grandchildren spread around the countryside. So years ago in 1977, we were, turned out 2 other guys that I've mentioned already, I think, or at least Bill Wetzel I've mentioned, and Ron Hunman, and George Flynn, a lawyer who was several years behind me in high school. We were asked to put together what turned out to be the Bloomington Central Catholic High School Foundation, and we did the legal work to get that foundation chartered in Illinois. And in any event, the concern was the school needs financial backbone. And out of that, meetings that we had, the thought was put forward that a foundation was the way to go about it. First of all, it would be tax exempt under the IRS provisions, and when you're talking to people who are potential fairly good, healthy givers in terms of the amount, they would be, a lot of them would be interested in, is there a tax advantage and so forth. Even though I feel very strongly about Catholic education, I want to help them as much as I can. But from a financial standpoint and so forth, they're also concerned about being able to deduct this contribution. And so, and it was a way, the foundation was the way it was felt, and I think it's turned out to be a good decision. It was a way to generate funds that would be there for the long range, and we could use income from those funds. The original thought was that the income would be available through these gifts that came in and were managed by the foundation. That income would be available to help with capital needs of the school. So we put that together, and I think it's turned out to be the right vehicle for supporting Central Catholic High School and the various needs that are obviously there, and things don't get cheaper in this day and age. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me just to offer that as a possible place for, if you're charitably inclined and like your high school or like your church, your will or your trust can be the vehicle to get them some dough if that's your wish. So I was in a law firm that had represented the Breen family and their business here in town, and when my senior partner Bill Costigan retired, I kind of became heir to the work that the Breen family would need, and was acquainted with Dick Breen because he was a couple years ahead of me at Trinity, but he didn't know him really, but a great guy as it turned out, and used to see him at church and would visit a little bit on Sundays at Mass. But then after a number of years, as he grew older, he decided he needed to do some planning with regard to his estate. At my suggestion, he should maybe reach out to Mr. Cook and the principal and just talk to them and so forth. I think that's kind of how it went, but he did reach out to them, and from then on, we worked it out, and he provided very nicely to Central Catholic High School Foundation to the tune of $1.2 million, which was a wonderful, wonderful gift to the foundation, and certainly, given what its objects are in terms of the longevity of Central Catholic, it's certainly a huge help. Yeah, well, I got a call from Kevin Cook sometime in the late winter, I guess, of this year. It was, in any event, saying they wanted to recognize me for that achievement of helping Dick Breen with his charitable gift. And I mean, it's very humbling because I was the vehicle to put this on paper for this guy that wanted to do this. And it was certainly a pleasure for me. It made me feel great because on his own, he comes to me and says, I want to do this. And I'm saying, that's wonderful. That's my old school and so forth. But it was wonderful to have the call from Kevin and acknowledge and receive this acknowledgement and this thanks, I guess, in a way, for what I was able to do by helping Dick Breen out. So I'm not sure how deserving I am of it, just because of my client wanted this done, and so I was the facilitator. And for that, I'm thankful that I was able to be the facilitator, and I'm thankful and appreciate the honor that I'm being given to help out in the way that I did through my business. So.
Congratulations again, Mr. Walkner, on being the recipient of this year's Alumni Achievement Award. Job well done, and certainly thank you very much for establishing the Central Catholic High School Foundation. The foundation which actually holds the keys to the Tabor Fund, which is tonight's Fund in Need. So as a reminder, make sure that you honor and thank Mr. Tabor for everything he's done over the last 4 decades by making a contribution to the Tabor Fund as our Fund in Need at Saints Alive 2022. Well, our show is just about done, but want to make sure that we pass along once again our thanks to all of our sponsors, all of our donors, to the fabulous committee that makes things happen, to all of our faculty and staff for helping to support the effort, and to you for staying tuned and watching. We really appreciate it. God bless you. Go Saints. Thank you for all that you do. Good night.